Well, today is the day. I've been waiting, and I hope you have too. The Summer Olympics kick off today in Paris. So it's all about athletics. How about we spotlight women's athletics, at least for this moment? These women athletes and the story behind it will add some perspective to the recent growth that we've been seeing in women's sports. Nicole Serino is with us, Director of Credit Research and Insights at S&P Global Ratings. We have much to discuss here. I think the Caitlin Clark got everybody's attention with basketball recently. Simone Biles just did an incredible vault today that I saw. I mean, there's so many names that we love to watch. Is it so different than yesteryear, women athletes and them getting the attention?
Yeah, so it's very different. I think what makes this Olympics so incredible is that we finally have 50-50 parity between women and men athletes, participants at this Olympics. And that's been, a very slow process. Back in 1900, when women were first, participating in the Olympics, there were only 2.2% of the athletes were women. And then, 84 years later, in the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, it was still less than 25% women participants. And then now, finally, here we are in 2024. We finally have 50-50 parity. So it's a really exciting time, and I think it's taken us a long time to get here, but yeah, it's really great to see that women are finally getting the spotlight they deserve.
That's pretty interesting. I didn't really realize that, because I think back and I think of people like Mary Lou Retton and all these people
stars,
from the 80s and 90s. And I mean, I loved it, but I didn't really put it together that less than 25% of the total number of athletes there were women. So it does show you the growth. Also, it's good for the viewership, the attendance, right? I mean, what kind of metrics are we looking at there?
Yeah, so this Olympics really comes at an absolutely pivotal time in women's sports history. Right now, there is just tremendous growth that we're seeing in terms of viewership and attendance, like you were saying. So, you talked about Caitlin Clark earlier. This last NCAA women's basketball tournament averaged 2.2 million viewers across ESPN, which is a 121% increase from the 2023.
And that was the most of any game, wasn't it?
So, the championship game, which is the last game they played, there was 18.9 million viewers, which is the most of any game, and it actually outbeat the men's viewership for the first time ever for their equivalent men's championship game. Which is really super impressive to see. And then, taking it across the pond to Europe and just looking at women's soccer in particular, you have teams in the WSL like Arsenal who have tripled their attendance records in just 1 year, and they're now playing games at the men's team's stadium, the Emirates, which holds over 60,000 seats, and they're selling out or nearly selling out every game they're allowed to play there. So the viewership and the attendance that we're seeing in the women's sport right now is really tremendous.
I go back and forth, like I like women's tennis, then I like men's tennis. Men's tennis, for example, for Wimbledon, it's my understanding the tickets were over 10 grand for the final. But I go back and forth between which ones I like to watch over the many years. Then it comes to the sponsorships and such. Caitlin Clark got so much attention, and you don't have to know the answer, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think she was not the first draft, or maybe the number 2 draft, the number 1 and 2. The other girl, a blonde girl, got the number 1. I don't know, but she got all these incredible modeling deals, with Prada and whatever. So I don't know what the value of those deals are versus Caitlin Clark's deal. But the point is, they're making a lot of money, right?
Yeah, they're making a lot of money with these sponsorships. It's really, really great to see that sponsors are finally, they're seeing this crazy attendance and the viewership I'm talking about, right? And now they're saying, there's money to be made. We're not just, investing in these women stars because, it's the right thing to do, but it also is a profitable thing to do. So we're definitely seeing a lot more investment from a sponsorship point of view, from an investor point of view into women's sports right now.
Over at S&P Global, they do a lot of ratings, right? You're really looking at the companies and the balance sheets and the wellness of these companies. So companies that are paying out big time for these stars, like Nike and many others, Adidas and whatever, Lulu. I mean, how does that factor in when you look at that?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about within the report tons of companies that are really, changing who they're investing in, who they're sponsoring in. You have big companies like Ally, who have, really been on the frontier of investing in women's sports from the very beginning, and now they have, sponsorship deals, throughout women's sports, throughout the NWSL, throughout the WNBA. But,
Right.
Companies are definitely catching on and realizing that there's money to be made here.
Yeah, and with women's soccer, for example, I mean, it was huge. Last round, it was huge. I know they already won yesterday. I
Yep.
saw, I don't know a lot about everything, but I know a little about everything. I saw that the women won yesterday, and
Yes.
I was happy to see it. So
Yeah.
they advanced. So it begins the fun here. The men's sports. I saw. First of all, how about Coco Gauff?
Yeah.
She's going to be a flag bearer. First time a women's
Yes,
tennis player
I saw that,
is
yeah.
going to be a flag bearer for the USA. So
Yeah,
I was really
definitely.
happy about that women's story, right?
Yeah, and to that point, the IOC, which is the formal Olympic Committee, they're actually taking a lot of steps now that we have 50-50 parity. They're taking a lot of steps right now with this particular women's game. They've asked actually every country to have one women representative and one male representative as the flag bearers. So Coco being one of them for the U.S., right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different things they're doing. Another example is the last event at the Olympics this year is actually going to be a women's event for the first time. Instead of the traditional men's marathon, they're having the women's marathon be the last event of the Olympics. So they're definitely also doing things to kind of prop up women's sports and give them the viewership that they deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. So the investment opportunities with relatively low entry valuations and high growth potential, if you were to sum them up, what really are they for folks that are on Wall Street or interested in this story?
Yeah, so we're seeing tremendous investment within women's sports right now. Really, just as an example, you have implied annual growth rates in the WNBA that we're seeing right now. With the Chicago Sky, they've had a return on investment of 13%. But then you have return on investment for the Las Vegas Aces right now, which has been a 350% return on investment, which is really great. And then, looking at the NWSL, the Seattle Reign just last month finalized the sale of their club, which is owned by OL Reign. OL Group. They just finalized the sale of their club. In just 4 years, there was a 1,500% return on investment. So for investors right now, what we expect is, that this investment opportunity is really going to stick around for a while as new leagues kind of grow and new franchises grow in that league, and then completely new leagues pop up. So definitely a great investment opportunity.
And we've had a few, we haven't had any females lately, but it starts with the NCAA and NIL, right? Name, image, likeness. And now they're getting paid. And what's interesting about athletes, and so many of them, is they work so closely with money managers. And we've had a few on here, Eli Manning, Giannis Antetokounmpo, DK Metcalf. They came on with their money managers and talked about the investing that they're doing and giving back for financial literacy and things like that. I mean, that's a whole nother aspect. It's not to make money, but to give back a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I just thought it would be nice to throw that in as well, that many of these athletes do try and give back as well. Well, great to meet you, Nicole. Thank you for this different kind of view. As we kick off the Olympics, I have my everyday list and schedule, so I will be watching Go USA. Nicole Serino, S&P Global Ratings. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.